Thanks for joining us. We're going to talk about something so rare called Tango 2. And my guests are Kasha and Mike Morris from Connecticut, whose son was diagnosed just about a year and a half ago with a genetic disorder. Part of a gene called Tango 2 he is missing. So I want you folks to take us through this for somebody who may be watching this to say, oh my gosh, is this my child? Ryan was born on 9/11/2001. So take me through it, Kasha.
It was quite a day. I had a doctor's appointment that morning with my gynecologist to see how things were going, and Mike called me on the phone to say, turn on the TV. And you know, so I was home and I saw what happened to the Twin Towers, and when I went to the doctor's appointment, you know, being pregnant, you're full of emotions anyway, so I was crying when I went in there, and the doctor said, you're gonna have your baby today. And I remember saying, okay. And I calmed down, I stopped crying, and I said, something good's gonna happen today. And that's exactly what happened. Ryan, you know, Ryan is one of the best things that's ever happened to me, so.
He's a teenager now.
Yes.
When he started to develop, Mike,
Yep.
what did the two of you notice as he was growing?
He was, I would say up until he was about a year old, he was
Happy and healthy?
developing, right, just on par with other children his age. There weren't any issues, and then just after his first birthday, and it was at a we were at his birthday party in East Hampton at our house, and he started, what was it? He was walking like a
he wasn't walking yet, but he was crawling and would fall over.
Like a crab.
He was sitting and would fall over.
At the time, though, when it first happened, though, at his birthday party, he was just kind of, I think it was his grandmother, actually. She picked up on it first. He was just kind of awkward in terms of the way he was crawling. He was crawling.
And this was new to you? This was new then?
That was the first time we had ever seen that. And then I think he was okay for a couple of weeks after that. We really didn't
think much of it, probably.
And
we put him down for a nap, and it went away.
And then over the course of the next 6 weeks or 8 weeks, perhaps, things just progressed. He would have these what we call neck tilts. So one day he would be like this, and his head would be off on his shoulder, and he just wasn't able to keep his balance or anything like that. You could obviously tell it was extremely frustrating to him.
What were you saying to each other about now? I mean, you had some suspicions. You had some suspicions. Were you talking to each other?
We were talking to each other, and we knew it wasn't right. You know, Ryan was our second child, and you know, so we knew how development was supposed to go, and weren't the rookie parents. And when he was having these neck tilts and muscle weakness where he couldn't open his fingers to hold a toy, we knew something was wrong. But the first time we called the pediatrician, it was, you know, our 1-year-old is crawling and falling over, he's sitting and tipping over, you know, and it doesn't sound like anything. So I videotaped it and brought it to the pediatrician, and the pediatrician was like, you're right, there's something here, let's start investigating. And
so you've been investigating for years and years and years. What was the initial diagnosis for your son?
The neck tilts they called benign paroxysmal torticollis, which is a fancy name for migraines in infants. And that was more of a diagnosis of a symptom. I think the doctors still knew that there was something underlying, but that's where we started, with diagnosis of symptoms. And that would come and go. When he went to sleep, it would go away. It wasn't consistent. When we'd go to doctor's appointments, he wouldn't be symptomatic. So I did a lot of videotaping. Eventually, I'd say a couple years later, we had one test that came back abnormal, and that was for hypothyroidism. And it wasn't a true abnormal, it was just a little bit off. But that was the one test that wasn't in the normal range.
So did you keep getting new things thrown at you about what was wrong with your son? I mean, on the autism spectrum, did it go
Not
there?
necessarily autism or anything like that, because I don't think, I mean, I'm not an expert in autism or anything like that, but I don't think his particular symptoms are presented in that manner. An awful lot of the things we saw in Ryan more so had like, they were like physical and like neurological type of like
How did this change your life? You got him going right away in different programs. Yes. To further him right along.
Right.
What did you do?
Birth to 3, right?
Birth to 3,
I
right?
think, you know, both of us right away jumped in as advocates for Ryan and whatever it was, whether it was, you know, the school system, birth to 3, with doctors. You know, he and I would go into doctor's appointments with a list of 20 questions, and we were very fortunate to have doctors in Ryan's life who listened to all those questions, and they took us seriously. You know, I like to refer to Mike as Mike and I, we're not medical experts, but we're experience experts. We are very experienced in Ryan and know him very well, and we were able to bring that with us on this journey, you know.
So you get involved in Special Olympics, you do things like that, you become a coach.
Yep, absolutely.
You start into your life. A year and a half ago, you meet a geneticist who says, this is Tango 2. He doesn't have the full gene here.
Right.
So what happened on that day that you finally find something?
It was actually July 5th, 2017.
You're good
I'll
with
never
dates.
forget the date.
So it wasn't quite a
Yeah, it
year
wasn't
and a half
that long ago.
It was more recent than that. It was probably 8 months ago now.
Wow.
But it took almost a year to
7
get
months.
the genetic testing
Right.
done and the results back. It's a very lengthy process, which is part of the problem with Tango 2 is it's not an easy diagnosis. But after 15 years, we finally had one. The geneticist told us that Ryan had this deletion at the Tango 2 gene, and she told us the characteristics of it, which I think Mike and I were both a little shocked by. I mean,
Right.
we were grateful to have a diagnosis, but at the same time kind of terrified about what we were hearing. It's characterized by muscle attacks called rhabdomyolysis and metabolic crisis, which can cause liver failure and kidney failure and brain damage, and it's degenerative, which is a hard word to hear. So
About the heart stuff.
and the heart,
Cardiac stuff as
the
well.
leading cause of death with Tango 2 patients is heart attack.
So how is he now? He's 15 years old.
Yeah.
He's thriving.
16 years old.
16
he just
now?
had his, yep.
Just had a
16th
birthday.
in September, so
Yes.
yeah, so he just turned 16. Overall, it's going to sound kind of odd. He's probably, you know, in an odd way, as far as like getting the common cold and things like that in the family, he's the healthiest one in the family, right? But he's got this underlying issue that's just there and it isn't going away. But overall, he's like I said, he doesn't get sick very often with the common cold and things like that. But he does have these periodic episodes where we just can't really explain it. Kasha has called it instant onset fatigue, where he'll be at school or him and I'll be playing basketball outside in the driveway, and all of a sudden he just kind of goes vacant. You see it in his eyes, and he just has to, whatever he's doing, he has to
rest.
stop. And there have been some incidents more recently when he's been in school where he's actually had to get down on the ground, and usually when that happens, they take him to the nurse's office, and Kasha gets a phone call, or I get a phone call. Most of the time, it passes within a few
journey.
minutes. It's a journey for sure, and I think one of the most difficult things is you don't know if he's going to have a good day or a bad day, a good week or a bad week. And so I think that's one of the most difficult things about it is the unknown. And even at this point, even though we do have a
Diagnosis, yeah.
diagnosis, there isn't any certain path forward.
So you continue to help others because this has been your journey, and you set up the Tango 2 Research Foundation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. You have a website up now, and you're starting to connect with other families around the globe who are getting similar diagnoses.
Well, we waited 15 years for a diagnosis, so right away we knew we didn't want to wait another 15 years to have a treatment or ultimately a cure, because we know, you can't just wait for something to just come along. You've got to make it happen, especially since this is so rare. There weren't going to be scientists lined up to take a look at this. We've got to put it in front of them. We've got to make people care about Tango 2, make people know about it, and want to do something about it. And that's where Mike's expertise is. He created a fantastic website that's easy for medical professionals as well as families and friends and families to access and find out more about it. And we've got a patient registry to collect information about patients that'll be helpful to researchers. And we've got a medical board, some doctors from all over the country, and even some from Germany and France that we're connecting and reaching out to be our medical advisors and help us move this along.
And through social media, I think you said on Facebook, you've found 18 children now.
I think we're up to 18.
Yeah. 18
families. I would say the bulk of them are in the U.S. here, but then there's one in Canada, there's one in Germany, Australia. More recently.
Once you get this data bank of all these folks and commonalities and where do they live and and what are we doing, you're also going to try to do research grants, and raise money, and collectively you're making this community on your own. You're just doing it. That must give you it's like an investigatory situation where you're just trying to find all these people together. Do you have goals that you're going to try to meet with this foundation, the Tango 2 Research Foundation?
Yeah, sure. I think I can talk a little bit about that. So we are. It's just we are just getting it off the ground, but I think we kind of recognize that to go out and to kind of ask people for money or for us as an organization to apply for grants and things like that, it isn't enough to go out there and tell people we're raising money for Tango 2. So we as an organization at this point, Kasha and I and board members who are kind of part of this organization, we're trying to figure out, what is it that we have to do here, like just to get this off the ground in the first 6 months or so. Then we can build a goal around that and a campaign around that.
And a board of directors, and you've got geneticists now worldwide.
So and the goal is to just kind of we're reaching out to the experts who are that are on our advisory board and on our board to ask them. I think the question that we are posing to them at this point is if you had another $200,000 or $300,000 to like move this forward, what would you do? What are the first couple of things? So we're going to try and gather all that information, kind of aggregate it, bounce it off all the other advisors, and then come up with a plan. And for our first big fundraiser, we're going to have some goals, in mind, and hopefully build around that. And I think if we get buy-in from all the families and extended communities with the power of social media and things like that, I think
you're going to
actually be able to make something happen.
There's some great resources in Connecticut too, which have worked out, which should work out good. The National Organization of Rare Diseases, NORD, is in Danbury, Connecticut. So we're going to seek them out as a resource to help us get guided down this path. And Jackson Laboratory in Connecticut is a business that genetically engineers mice, so they may be a resource for us in the future too. So
look at you guys go.
It's amazing what's out there.
Is there, this has been going on for 16 years for you. Does your son know what it is that you're doing for him?
I'm not sure. Ryan he's just a happy kid, you know. You think with everything he went through, he goes through, but he's just happy every day.
I think,
he's joyful, he's loving, he's kind, he loves sports, he loves the Patriots and the Yukon teams, and he's just living life. He's not worried about whether we're researching or fundraising. He's just living his life, which makes us happy.
What have you learned about yourselves? Because this has been quite something to go through as a couple, as a mother, as a father. What have you learned about yourself and the strength that you possess?
I don't know. I think for me, you know, personally, and I think it applies to the both of us, I think this isn't just us. I think this, you see people who on TV who maybe have done something and you're impressed by it or whatever. I think most people kind of have inside them the resiliency to do what in the moment what has to be done. Yeah. And I think that's where the both of us are at this moment. Like, you don't really think about it. At least I don't really think about it. It's just you get up every day and you just realize that this is what you have to do.
It's your normal.
That's what a mom and a dad do. They do what they need to do for the benefit of their children.
What kind of help do you need from folks as you set out to build this community of Tango 2 folks?
Well, we want to get the word out. You know, we want researchers ultimately to take a look at Tango 2 and study it and learn from it and provide treatments and cures for these Tango 2 kids. And in order to get them to pay attention to it, people need to know about it. So just getting the word out so that people have heard of this illness before, getting other families who may be affected by it to join our group, because collectively we're much more powerful. And then, you know, on the website we have a place where you can get involved, whether it's with donations or fundraisers or doing some research. We're going to try to do some research to see if there's organizations out there that give grants to foundations like ours as we're just getting started. So there's so many different ways that you can help with this.
Right. Yeah, I'd probably just add to that at this point, I think one of the biggest things that we have to do, I think we've talked about how we've kind of been fortunate enough to kind of get together with these other 18 families, and 18 isn't a very big number when you have big goals, and we've got big goals. So one of the things that at this point, like Kasha said, we have to do is we kind of have to you know, be advocates for hoping to kind of identify other children out there who are
because it's
afflicted
so rare
with this disease. Because in order for us to get to where like we have to be to help Ryan and to help others like him, if there are other families out there that are going through this, and instead of having 18 families pushing this forward, we have 100 or 500 or 1,000. And so I think that's our big goal initially, is to get this, get the word out there and to get it on the map.
Well, we're going to do our darndest to do that. Because before we talked, I had no idea about Tango 2. Now we're going to make it a household word and figure out how to help some kids.
It does have a clever ring to it.
Yes, it does. Mike and Kasha Morris, thank you so much for being on and enlightening us about this. And I hope that we can get a whole bunch of folks together to help you out.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it, Ann.
You're welcome.
Thanks so much for having us.
You're welcome.
Spend all night kissing, and if one was right here, then who else is missing? Got a little sidetracked if I'm a wishing to find the keys to the door, but it's also a metaphor. Need to keep locked in the grocery store, but mine just the same time. Skip right ahead to the last ride.